One of the rebuttals that people have about theism or the belief in God is that we base it on what we don't know rather than what we do know. That is called the God of the Gaps Fallacy. In other words, we don't have an answer for something we haven't figured out yet, so therefore we're going to put God in its place and we're going to say that's God. Well, obviously this is the good way of looking at it, and what I want to give you today is 3 reasons why I don't think you can disprove theism by saying that we argue from a God of the Gaps fallacy. On a recent video that I had a lot of atheist interaction on it, and several people brought up the idea about this God of the Gaps argument, but one person particularly said, people used to believe in wall riders or wall ridders. I've heard it pronounced different ways, but what this is a German mythological character that people used to think would rest on the chests of people when they were sleeping. It was called sleep paralysis. Well, obviously, these don't exist because science found out that there's other natural causes that cause sleep paralysis, so therefore they didn't need to believe in wall riders anymore. But you had this phenomenon. This phenomenon was that people would wake up paralyzed, and so it must have been wall riders. And you have other things that happen too. Another phenomenon would be forest fires. People would say, well, there's a forest fire. We don't know what's causing this, so therefore it must be fire-breathing dragons. Or we see the phenomenon of blooming flowers. So people think, I don't know what causes this, so therefore it must be fairies and pixies. You see the idea here? And then they look around it and see the phenomenon of the universe and say, well, I can't explain that either naturally, so let's just say there's some kind of a God. That is God of the Gaps when it concerns origins, and that is not what we believe. A thinking theist will not believe that way, and so I want to try to give some reasons why we don't believe that way. Just 3 things that I want to talk about today. Now, you understand the importance of this because if you didn't know anything about science, you would attribute everything to God. The reason it rains, well, it's because of God is doing something in this particular situation. There's thunder and there's lightning. It must be the gods up in the heavens are fighting, that kind of a thing. But as we begin to understand science some more, we realize that there are natural reasons for these things, and our God gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the idea is that eventually, as we study science, that we won't need a God at all anymore. The idea is that once we can understand how everything would begin to exist, if we hold to the idea that the universe is not infinite, that pretty soon we're going to have some natural understanding of this, and we're not going to need any God anymore. So is that the kind of God that we have? I want to give you 3 reasons why I don't think anyone can say that a thinking theist should have his arguments debunked because he has a God of the Gaps fallacy, because I don't believe that we do. So here's the first one. Reason number 1. We as theists argue from what we know, not from what we don't know. God of the Gaps argues from what we don't know. I don't know what it is, so therefore I'm just going to assume it must be a God until I get some other answer. That is not how thinking theists argue. We argue positively. We look around at evidence, and I know there's a lot of discussion, what can we use as evidence, but I believe that the design that we see in the universe is evidence for some supernatural power. I'm not even talking about the God of the Bible yet. I'm just talking about supernatural power that's out there. I look around and I see a positive argument. There's design, there is order, and there is morality. There are so many things in the universe that point to something that is above nature. Nature can't create these things. So it's above nature or supernatural. Now, we live like this. For some reason, people want to jettison this idea when they come into the realm of theology and origins, but we live like this every day. Let's say, for example, that I saw this car come by, and I'd never seen a car like this before. And maybe it's a friend of mine. He drives up, and I'm like, what kind of a car? I've never seen this car before. The first thing I'm going to ask is what? What make is that? I mean, who made this car? Is that a Ford? Is it a Dodge? Is it a Mercedes? Man, I've never seen one like that. It's got to tell me something about it. Instinctively, I know that somebody had to have made this vehicle. We understand that. Why? Because it's design. And if I just thought, well, that car must have just materialized in his garage last night, I'm not going to ask him what make it is. That's not going to matter anything to me because nobody made it, right? But I understand something as intricately designed as a car with all those parts that work together had to be designed by somebody smarter than a car. Now, I could take science and scientific knowledge and dissect that car and figure out how it works. I can try to figure out all the details about it, but it's not going to tell me how it came to be in the first place with such an intricately designed vehicle like that. And that's what we're doing with the universe. As theists, we can take science, we can understand how many things work in the universe as we look around, but we're trying to find out, how did it all get here in the first place? And we say all of this evidence in the universe points to someone or something that is greater than the universe, something that is supernatural. A couple of years ago, my wife and I took a trip to the Ford manufacturing company up in Michigan where they make the Ford F-150, and we happened to come there on a week when they had shut down the whole plant. And we could walk around the mezzanine and we could look down there and we can see trucks at all these different stages of development, but nothing was happening. It's not like the cars were making themselves. This truck was moving along and doing this. No, nothing was happening that week because there were no people there to make it happen. We know trucks don't make themselves. We know it takes somebody with a higher intellect than a truck to make a truck. And of course, they designed the machines and everything that make this happen, but it takes somebody smarter than a truck. And I look around at the universe and I see the same thing. I don't say, well, there's a universe and I can't explain how it got here, so there must be a God. That's God of the gaps. I look around and I say, there has got to be. My logic, my intellect tells me that there's somebody greater than nature to put nature together. Now, there's so many other arguments we can add to that, but this is not supposed to be a 4-hour video. It's just something I want to share with you. So number one is that we argue positively. We have reasons that we believe there's a supernatural being. Again, we haven't got to the Bible, the God of the Bible yet. We are just understanding there's a supernatural being. And the second reason is that we have something that non-theists do not have, and that is revelation. Okay, we're all trying to answer some questions about the universe. We have revelation. People who believed in wall riders resting on people's chests as they sleep, they didn't have a revelation about that. Somebody thought of it. That sounds a good idea. Let's just buy that for a while. Fire-breathing dragons, there's no revelation, but we have a revelation. Now, I understand this will be a topic of divisiveness between non-theists and theists because you're not going to agree that we can trust biblical revelation, but at least we have that, right? We have the universe. We can look around it just like the non-theists and we can see this design in it, but we also have somebody, whether you agree with the Bible or not, this is something we do have, that tells us how it all got here. And the third reason is that non-theists can also be susceptible to the same fallacy. We're all trying to figure things out in the universe, right? Non-theists might say that we as theists are saying, well, you don't have an answer, so you're just going to say that there's a God. But I believe that non-theists could do the same thing. Instead of them filling the gaps with God, they're filling the gaps with science. There's some things that we just don't understand, especially concerning origins of the universe. And they're saying, well, you're just filling in God for no reason. But I think we do have positive reasons, like I just said. But a non-theist, on the other hand, will say, well, science will answer that. Maybe we don't have the answer now, but science will answer that. So actually, we could call that science of the gaps, or even to go far enough, we could say it's faith in the gaps, because they say one day science will answer this with natural explanations, because they're not going to buy in the fact that there could be a God, or buy into the idea that there could be a God. So those are just 3 quick reasons I wanted to give, and obviously we could dig in this to a whole lot further. There's a whole lot more information that we could talk about with this, but just to review, number one, theists argue from what we know, not from what we don't know. We know there's design. Logically, intellectually, we know that design comes from a designer. The second one, we do have revelation. Obviously, not everyone's going to buy that the revelation is reliable, but we do have the revelation. And 3, non-theists can also be susceptible to the same fallacy, but instead of God of the gaps, it would be science in the gaps or something like that. Okay. Hey, let me know your comments on this. I find this stuff fascinating. I love to hear what you have to say. If you can do it nicely and share ideas and not just attacks and calling me a fool. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.